I've seen a lot of posts lately on social media from adults who are wondering about the possibility of having a learning disability or dyslexia that was never discovered before. And that's what I would like to talk about today. Why this happens, and is it possible that you could be a grown-up adult and just now discover that you have dyslexia or a learning disability? Welcome to College, Disabilities, and Success, Episode 16, Dyslexia Grows Up, by Mickey Hayes. When I was a high school learning disabilities teacher, I had many parent conferences that started out with, I had those same problems as a kid. I did that as a kid. Yeah, I couldn't spell either. I still can't. I wonder if I have a learning disability. Who knows? When I went to work at the college with adults, I had many students in my office wondering about the possibility of getting tested for a learning disability because they were struggling a lot with college work and they couldn't quite figure out why. They didn't quite get what was happening. They've always had problems with work at school in the past, but never to that kind of extent that they were seeing at college. And so I had a lot of conferences with students about learning disabilities and about the possibility of getting tested as an adult. It is very possible that you made it into adulthood, 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, even more, and never realized that all that struggle that you had with reading, with spelling, with writing, those sorts of things, are in reality a learning disability. The problem was when you went through school, the testing process wasn't as refined as it is today. And so many times, because you were a smart student and you could do enough of the work to get by, you were overlooked as having a real significant disability problem. And you figured out ways to get around the work that made it acceptable. Well, when you get into college, it's not unusual to suddenly find that the same problems that you had as a kid that you struggled with are rearing their heads again, that they are showing up and messing with your ability to pass college classes. So at this point, you decide to get tested. That's the only thing you can do. You have to figure out what you need to do to get yourself tested. Because without that diagnosis, without that testing, you're going to spin your wheels and you're just not going to move forward. With the testing, you can have accommodations. There are some allowances that can be made as far as your schedule is concerned, as far as your curriculum is concerned. You can just plan a little bit of a better or different strategy for the work that you're doing at college, if need be. So what do you do if you think you have a learning disability and you're an adult? Where do you even begin that process? If you are not a current college student, I would suggest that you go to your local college and talk to disability services there. When I worked in disability services at our college, we had several psychologists that made their willingness to test known to us. They were not on staff, we did not pay them, but we had a list of names of psychologists from the community who were commonly used or that students referenced and liked, who would evaluate an adult, and they would tell us how much they were going to charge. I would pass that information along to anybody who needed to know who might be available out there to test them. So if you're in that situation where you just don't know where to turn, start with your local college and see if they have any names that they can recommend. Now, the other option, if you're not necessarily interested in a full-blown college education, but you do need to go to work and you suspect that your learning disability, potential learning disability, may be holding you back from getting a better job or getting a good job, then at that point you might want to also consider vocational rehab. Depending on what state you're at in the United States, vocational rehab is in every single state. Their mission for all of them is to help individuals with disabilities become employable. And so if learning disabilities is an issue for you, that's a conversation you could have with a VR counselor to find out if there's any answers that they can get for you. But it would have to be under their parameters and with the goal in mind that they're going to help you gain employment. So those are two possibilities. A third possibility is to just go to your local high school. But don't talk to the high school disability teacher. Talk to the supervisor of disability services. Look up the name and the phone number and contact somebody who deals with special education, because they may have somebody on staff that does private testing, or they may know somebody who also does private testing. Sometimes, if you're very lucky, your insurance will cover the cost of testing. So always check with your insurance company as well to find out if your doctor can recommend somebody to do that evaluation for you. Now here's the thing. Once you have that evaluation done, you really, really, really need to sit down with the person that did the testing and have them explain the report to you. And don't just do a quick once-over with the report. Maybe take it home, take a look at it, read it, figure out what questions you might have. There's a lot of depth and detail in those reports. And depending on the amount of testing that they did and the types of testing that they used to evaluate your learning disability depends on the complexity of the results. And so you need somebody to show you the data, to show you the scores, and to explain to you what those scores mean, and to teach you where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. I spent a lot of time in my office as a college learning disability specialist going over reports with students. I was amazed at how many individuals came to my office with documentation but really didn't understand anything on it except for the fact that it said, oh, look, it says I have a learning disability, so I should be able to get accommodations. But they really didn't understand what kind of a learning disability it was, what areas they were strong in, what areas they struggled in, what subject areas they were strong in, what subject areas they struggled in. All of this should be on that report, and it should be very, very clear. What strategies you should use or could use to improve your ability to learn, because at this point, as an adult, you're really not looking for remediation, although you can go down that route if you want. But as a college student, the amount of time that's spent to remediate is going to be much, much greater than just figuring out a strategy to use to compensate for the disability, to work around the learning disability, and to move on with the tests and the papers that you have to do and the assignments that you have to do. So you're looking for strategies, you're looking for techniques, you're looking for suggestions, and those should be in your report from the person who evaluated you. They should be able to give you some idea about the best way to approach that information. So take some time, talk to the psychologist who did the testing, and get a clear understanding of just exactly what that data means, because you really don't want to go out of that office without having a good handle on it. So the bottom line is, yes, you can have a learning disability as an adult that has never been discovered. You can get yourself evaluated. You just need to find out where to go for that evaluation, but you also need to have a thorough explanation of the report so that you can confidently move forward with planning your college education, your trade school education, your employment opportunities. Whatever direction you plan to go in, you can go in with at least a sense of confidence and a sense of security about your future. Dyslexia does grow up, and it does affect adults. Thanks for your attention today. I hope you found this worthwhile, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. In the meantime, stop by my website, mickeyteaches.com, and sign up for my newsletter, Getting Ready for College. You'll see it on the first page when you open up mickeyteaches.com. Have a great evening and take care. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye. Information contained throughout this podcast has been gleaned from my own personal experiences. But to ensure accuracy, please contact the disability services at the college of your choice to have first-hand information and the most up-to-date policies and procedures followed by your particular institution of higher education. The content in any of these podcasts is not intended as a substitute for information from legal, educational, or medical professionals. Always seek the advice of your attorney or qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have with regards to legal, educational, or medical concerns.